You think you've taken the red pill. You think you've woken up to the truth about history. But what if I told you you're still plugged into the matrix? What if I told you that everything you've been parroting about Rome is just another illusion?
The Romans and Greeks were ancient. Everyone in Latium was white or founders of Rome's kingdom, the German barbarians.
These are the takes of people who believe they've broken free, that they see the world as it really is. But in reality, they've swallowed a comfortable modern myth, a blue pill version of Rome that never actually existed.
Between 22 to 27 seconds in, we see a variety of comments on screen, I suspect from under his videos, where people present ideas which, as described, represent the side that is in the wrong, believing the myths, having ingested the blue pill, so to speak. We will review these one by one later, but for now let's just have an overall idea of what is being allegedly debunked. Ancient Romans from Latium, obviously white Europeans, state of Rome, the closest thing to a European civilization state, young children weren't trans, even in pagan Rome marriage was between male and female, there were two genders, the Romans and Greeks were European, once again. Well, let's see.
Do you really want to know what happened? Do you actually want the red pill? Then buckle up, because I'm about to take you down the rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole it is. Follow the right rabbit. I hope it's not one of those medieval ones, am I right?
If you've seen The Matrix, you know the idea. Take the blue pill, and you stay asleep in a comfortable illusion, believing what you've always been told. Take the red pill, and you wake up to the truth, no matter how unsettling it is. Well, a lot of people online think they know the real history of Rome, but what they are really versed in is pop culture. Others think they've uncovered hidden truths about Rome and that they're seeing reality while everyone else is lost in fantasy. But here's the irony. These same people are the ones still stuck in the blue pill version of Rome. They've traded one set of myths for another, repeating simplistic, politically convenient narratives instead of looking at what actually happened. In this video, we're going to take the real red pill, the one based on evidence, primary sources, and actual historical scholarship. It's time to unplug from the false history of Rome and see it for what it really was. People living in their illusory pop culture bubble might say something like this. The Romans and Greeks were European. State of Rome is the closest thing there ever was to a European civilization state. Is it accurate to call the Romans European?
Yes, Doctor. But please proceed.
Seems so. I think a common view is that the Romans were these people who came from Italy, and they conquered a bunch of other people around them and ruled over them. Roman conquerors, European. Roman subjects, mixed. But that's not what happened.
Well, to be fair, if someone did say that, then yes, they would be wrong, but probably from a different reason from the one you are building up to. In the sense that depending on which tribe we are discussing as the conquered, not only they could also be European. If we are talking about the Gauls, for instance, I wouldn't describe them as mixed, I would describe them as European. Moreover, depending on which tribe we are talking about, they could also be quite ethnically, genetically and culturally homogeneous. The exception being people living in port cities in classical antiquity, which tended to be more diverse. It's case by case.
Throughout most of Roman history, a Roman was not someone who came from the city of Rome, or even who came from Italy. Are you ready for the red pill? Being Roman was not about where someone came from. There were Romans who had never lived anywhere near Rome, or even in Italy or in Europe. Being Roman was not about genetics. Yes, you could be considered Roman if both your parents were Roman citizens, but you also could become Roman if no one in your family had ever been Roman before. Being Roman was not about language. Latin was the dominant language, legally speaking, but many Romans had other primary languages. Being Roman was not purely about culture either. There were people who fully embraced Roman customs, but were not considered Roman, just as there were people with different cultural traditions that were considered Roman.
There is a lot to unpack here, so let's proceed in order. Personally, I find this very statement to be objectively incorrect, particularly in the way it was presented here. Let me elaborate. While it is true that people who weren't born in Italy could become Roman, of course, to become Roman means precisely to embrace the cultural and linguistic traditions of Rome. You cannot become Roman if you don't submit to the central authority, which is Rome in Italy, submit to the emperor's will, agree to pay taxes once again to Rome, accept their customs, in fact, learn Latin if you want any hope for a career and social advancement for yourself and for your children. Therefore, even though the genetic component of it is not a requirement for you to become a Roman citizen, the cultural and linguistic ones absolutely are, as well as political and social submission. And mind you, on the linguistic note, sure, you're not going to forget your own language, although your kids might. To at least agree on some points, it's very likely that you will still preserve your own customs and religion, even if you become a Roman citizen, but only if you bend the knee to Rome and its dominating culture.
At its core, Roman identity was a legal status, a matter of citizenship. To ask who was a Roman